Addis Abebe, one of the favourites for this. Addis Abebe running for Ethiopia, and the Ethiopians with a very strong team. He's only 21. 19th in last year's senior race, but of course he's improved an awful lot in the last year. The British team, led by Eamon Martin, also in the team, Andrew Bristow, Brighton and Hove, Steve Brooks, youngster from Bingley, came in as a last-minute replacement for Dave Clark, who's injured. There's David Lewis from Rossendale, Martin McLaughlin from Liverpool Pembroke, Richard Naraka from Bingley, the national cross-country champion, John Nuttall, Preston, Paul Roden of East Cheshire, and Steve Tunstall, also of Preston. So 2 Preston athletes in the team, 2 Bingley athletes. Each team can field 9 athletes and 6 score in the race itself. The men's race, 11,555 metres, that's 7.25 miles. And here now with his thoughts, Brendan Fossett.
And a very, very competitive 11,500 metres. The course itself is pretty fast, but it is a little drainy because of some of the sand hills that have been liberally sprinkled around the course in order to get rid of the excess water. I think the British team have got a very good chance. There's Richard Narurga just walking out there. They're getting changed at the bottom of the far end down away from us. And Richard Narurga came here 3 weeks ago with a video camera, watched the Belgian Championships, and then came training on this course. Took the video pictures back and showed the British team before they left to come out here. So the preparation by people like Richard Narurga and also Eamon Martin have been pretty conscientious, and quite rightly so, because this is probably the most competitive distance race in the world. Unlike the Olympic Games, where they can choose their events, 5,000, 10,000, marathon and steeplechase, here all the best distance runners have one title to go for, the World Cross Country title. 4 times winner John Ngugi here. We saw him in Gateshead and in Durham earlier in the year, and he went back to Kenya to train for these particular championships. And everyone's favourite, last year's champion, Khalid Skah of Morocco.
Incidentally, the championships in the last 10 years dominated by East Africans. Won for the last 5 years by the Kenyans, and the 5 years before that by the Ethiopians. So we've got first and second from last year running, Skah from Morocco and Moses Tanui of Kenya. See, Ngugi didn't enjoy last year's run at all, and he lost his title, as the Britons, 156 and 154. Eamon Martin and Richard Narurga. There's a pecking order in the pen, of course. The best ones go in front, and you've got well, Britain's #1 on international racing record in Eamon Martin, and the national cross-country champion alongside him. Eamon looking very determined. And we watched here Mel Batty, his coach, who was second to file of France in 1965 in Belgium.
And his training mates come over, all 6 of them who regularly train with Eamon from Basildon Athletic Club, have come out here. They didn't tell him they were coming. They waved him off at the airport, and then they went down by car through the tunnel, through the tunnel. But they went by car on a ferry, and they've come here, and they said Eamon won't know we're here till we start shouting for him, and I'm sure he'll look forward to that.
Look at the Belgian leader, number 54, Rousseau, shown good form on the track. Looks drawn enough to be good on the country. He's obviously very fit. He's just won the Belgian cross-country title on this course. Look at the Kenyans. There's Moses Tanui, who was number 291. 297 is Kirochi, new to us, but he's 31. It's astonishing, Brendan, actually, how many latecomers there are in the sport, as well as youngsters in the African countries.
That's right. I mean, but they go to training camp after the championships, and then they had another trial whilst they were at training camp, and they whittled the team down from about 14 that they originally selected to today's bunch. There's Castro from Portugal. It's one of the twins. I'm not sure which one it is.
Actually, it's Dominguez, who's the better one on paper, but he's been injured most of the season. So, the World Cross Country Championship about to start. Five laps of this fairly flat circuit, apart from some man-made hills. 44 countries and some 240 runners, and the inevitable battle at the start. Sometimes the first mile in these races is run inside 4 minutes 20 seconds.
That's right. The thing about this race is, unlike a track race where the athletes can gauge their effort and spread their energy over the laps of the track, in this race the start is so quick that really it's very dangerous to get near the front. It's better to come from a way back, because if you go into oxygen debt in the first part of this race, then you can have a very difficult afternoon's work.
There's a young man. There's a young man. He's new to us. We saw him in the pen. Simon Kirochi, his first major international, I believe. He's 31. And he's just made this breakthrough, and he certainly broke away then.
Well, I'll tell you what, that first 400 metres, I'm sure he's gone close to 60 seconds, which is 4-minute miling pace. And the field are immediately strung over about 50 metres. And the quality of this field is unbelievable. Everywhere you look, you're looking at national champions. You're looking at 10,000 metre runners who've run under 28 minutes for 10,000. You're looking at 5,000 metres who all of them can run close to 13:20 for 5,000 metres. And so you're looking at the best collection of distance runners that you're ever likely to see in 1 year is in this event.
Actually, in that leading bunch, we've got Moses Tanui. There's a young man from Zimbabwe there as well, Chumusasa. Didn't expect to see around. But just watch the red vests of the Kenyans as they're moving through as a group. Champions for the past 5 years, and difficult to see them being beaten today.
And very sensibly, about 30 metres behind the leader, is Eamon Martin, Great Britain, and John Nuttall right next to him. Sensibly off the pace, running and looking around, just seeing who else is there, because obviously you've got to gauge the effort by who else is in the group, and that's the best way to be. The place to be in this race at this particular time is not in the lead, but it's back there, about 15th or 20th place. Eamon Martin, John Nuttall. I'm looking through the group there, and there's Dave Lewis, Richard Naruga just gone through. So the British team have started sensibly. They've started just a little off the pace, which is quite the right thing to do, and they've got to be now settled down and work their way through the field.
Still Kirochi leading the Kenyan. Also in second place is the Ethiopian now, Ergi. Again, no true international form, but the Kenyans now 3 and 4, and in fact they've got, look at that lot, they've got 4 in the first 6.
There's 4 in the first 6 there, David. No sign of the 4-times champion John Ngugi, who, when you watch, if you study his race, he comes from a long way behind. He's a very slow starter, and he'll gradually work his way through the field. The Kenyan coaches and team management were telling us that John Ngugi, well, this is going to be his last attempt to win the World Cross Country Championships. Whatever he does today, having been 4-times champion and Olympic 5,000 metre champion, he's been a great, great athlete, and it's very early to retire from this level of competition because he's only 28 years of age.
Still Kirochi leading. Moses Tanui up with that leading group as well. Ergi of Ethiopia. And it's been very, very quick in these early stages, no doubt about that at all.
That first kilometre was well under 3 minutes, and there was a whole bunch of them there just behind the leader, and they're gathering. And I'm looking just a little bit further down the field where I can see Eamon Martin and John Nuttall just staying off the pace quite sensibly. Richard Naruga of Great Britain, twice, the last 2 years, has been our national cross-country champion, and there he is just there in about 20th place.
Actually, one of the Kenyans there, Brendan, we ought to explain, is a non-counter. There are 3 Kenyans running in this race, wearing numbers 600, 601 and 602. And I think I saw on Doro's 600 in that leading group, but those 3 Kenyans do not count in the race. They're part of the cross-country challenge international event. They're among the points leaders and have been invited. 600 just on the edge of the picture. He's a non-scorer for the Kenyan.
Well, I think the leader, Kirochi, is being a little bit ambitious there. He's just all of a sudden started sprinting. They've only run just over a mile, and they've got over 7 miles to run. and Kirochi suddenly took off. This is his first international competition, but he's opened up a gap, which, well, if he had more experience, we'd think he was away and he was going to win this race. But look at that acceleration he's shown, just to clear that group by that distance.
Actually, in that group, we've got, as well as Moses Tanui, who was second last year, 298, Mutwal, who also had a good run last year, steeplechaser, who finished in 5th place, and number 295, who's Koech. William Koech, also new to this level of competition. But the Kenyans mean business.
Well, they certainly do mean business. Richard Naruga just gone through the shot, Paul Roden too, Dave Lewis just running through there. So the British runners are packing well, and Eamon Martin is nicely poised just on the outside of the Kenyans in about 8th place, but knowing exactly what's going on, and decided he's going to let Kirochi, who's running his first major international championship, first time we've ever seen him actually, running very enthusiastically in the lead, and Eamon's decided, well, if you want to run like that, you can have it your way.
Actually, Eamon will be looking for an even pace, I would think, trying to get it settled down. But that's the problem with these Africans, not just the novice Africans, all of them. They tend to run in surges, and it's very discomforting. I think Brendan Foster's had a bit of experience of that, and they're not too careful with the elbows, Brendan.
That's right, but the thing about them is they surge, and the European distance runners train in order to try and maintain an even pace. The Kenyans, probably because of their advantage of living at altitude and training at altitude, don't seem to have a problem with a surge like a European distance runner would. And if you look at them, there are 6 of them in the first 7 there.
I noticed Skah, the champion from Morocco, moving through, gradually working his way through, and perhaps a little worried about the fact one Kenyan's stolen such a good lead. And it is a considerable lead at this stage. It's about 20 metres.
I think Eamon Martin's doing it right, though. He's just letting Kirochi have his flourish, and if he's as good as this, then he's going to win by miles. But I think you've got to take the gamble that he's going to come back to the field, because he's running so enthusiastically and so much in fits and starts that would be quite damaging for someone like Eamon Martin or Richard Naruga or John Nuttall, who's running well there, to actually be in this bunch. And I can see Eamon Martin, he's literally surrounded by Kenyans and Ethiopians. Unfortunately, most of the Kenyans are right in front of him.
He's also got a marker there, though, in the champion Skah of Morocco. He's right alongside him, practically. So he's obviously using him as the marker in the race. But, in fact, Kirochi's increased his lead now. It's something like 30 metres. Hammer Batayeb, by the way, of Morocco's also up there, 3.22. And Intawuli Kura, our friend from the Rwanda nation, who was 8th in the world indoor 3,000 metres. He's well up there as well, number 391. Also with that leading group of Kenyans is Masai, wearing 292, who won the Kenyan trial.
Well, they really are amazing. They went for 3 weeks to a training camp just near Mount Kenya before they came here, and their coach was telling us that every single day when they were out training, they began to race in training, so they had to slow them down from their training pace, and they put them in a time trial. And the time trial they all ran together in, and to be perfectly honest, there's probably never been as competitive a time trial in history, because apparently 8 of them finished within 6 seconds over 3,000 meters, which is remarkable training. And it's amazing what happens when they get together. They just seem to improve as a group. It's not individually that they improve only. They seem to get strength from being all together and all competitive. And just as we go back to the leader there, I saw Richard Naruga, the English cross-country champion, looks as though he's going through a bit of a bad spell there.
That is quite a lead now. It's stretched to about 30 to 40 metres, and urgent messaging going out of the Kenyan commentary box from all over our broadcasting booths to find out more about him. And the message that just come back is unbelievable. He's new to us as well, they say. He's 31, Simon Kirochi, totally new to the Kenyans, and they only first saw him in the championships where he qualified.
Well, a Kenyan in the lead, and there are 4 Kenyans in that second group. Abibi of Ethiopia there, just behind the Kenyans. Skah of Ethiopia. Butayeb, Morocco. Sorry, Skah of Morocco. Butayeb of Morocco. And then Eamon Martin just drifting a few yards off that group. Now Eamon really needs to knuckle down and get into the back of that group, because they will eventually slow down, because the pace they're running is a little bit too fast to keep going for 11,500 meters. And I think halfway distance, we'll be very interested to look at the 5,000 meter split, but I think you'll find that the second part of the race is going to be a bit slower than the first part.
Just looking at, I'm reminded of the race about 3 years ago when Kenya won, obviously. They had 8 men in the first 10. And in fact, the men who finished in 8th and 9th places in the World Championship didn't actually count in the 6 counters for the team.
Well, when we're talking to the athletes about who they're worried about, they go through the list of names, including people like Steve Monaghetti, the world's fastest marathon runner last year, Skah of Morocco, Boutayev of Morocco, Eamon Martin, Richard Naruga, and then they tell you, and the Kenyans, because even the team management of the Kenyans wouldn't be able to tell you which Kenyan they expect to be best today, because they're all so good, they're all so competitive. And there's number 121 of Ethiopia, Abibi of Ethiopia, just behind him there, number 329 of Morocco, last year's champion Khalid Skah. And if you remember last year, it was his first effort in a major championship when he won the race in France. And Skah has got 6 Kenyans in front of him.
Eamon Martin beginning to suffer a little bit there, I think. He's finding this very hot indeed, but they all are. And this novice Kenyan still has a lead of about 35 metres. He's not letting go at all. Dave Lewis, Rossendale going through. Actually, we're just counting the Britons. We've got about 5 in the first 40 at the moment.
Well, that's good running, and Eamon Martin right on the back of that leading group, and really needs to work to get there and stay there, because I think Eamon is world-class at this event. He's world-class on the track, he's world-class on the roads, and he can be world-class at cross-country, but he just seems to be going through a bit of a bad spell and just suffering a few yards behind that group. But let's not forget, they're going incredibly fast here, and they're just diving up those hills, and if you see Eamon just come up that hill, you'll see he has a little bit more of a problem with the hill than the Kenyans do.
Actually, there's some sensational news just been passed to me. I don't know whether it's right or not, but they believe that John Ngugi, 4 times the winner, did not start this race. And Niamu, a youngster, only 19, I've just seen his number there, 293, who wasn't in their original team list. He seems to be in the race. So Ngugi has not been in the best possible form, but I can't confirm that, but it seems fairly certain. And in fact, Ngugi has started, we're told, but has dropped out, and he's being helped off the course. He's now come into my sight, out of your sight, obviously, not on camera, but he's being helped off the course. So, Naamu, who was in the race, wasn't replacing Ngugi.
And whilst we watch John Ngugi walking past the stand here, limping, his teammate Kirochi, who having his first international experience here, well, he's certainly making them run, and he's settled down at that pace.
Actually, 292 is leading the chase. Masai, winner of the Kenyan trial. Andrew Masai, who's 30. He won the first Kenyan trial, and he was 7th in the 89 World Cross Country Championship. In fact, he's got a fair old record. He was 6th the year before. And actually, in that leading group, the Kenyans have got 2 non-scorers. Bitok 602 and Ondora 600. And what a curiosity would be if these men have been included to get points in the cross-country challenge, international challenge. They've been included because they're among the point scorers, but not among the runners. What would happen if one actually won the individual title?
Well, I think they'd probably take the individual gold medal, but I'm not sure that they obviously wouldn't count in the team, and it's a bit of a confusing situation. And that's a sad sight to see. John Ngugi, maybe in his last World Cross Country Championships, being led away. He's been a great cross-country runner, and I know he was determined to do well today, and he'll be bitterly disappointed after those hard weeks of training in Kenya, and he comes back here, and he can't even be competitive. In fact, he's so fed up, he's not even watching the race, which is quite unusual, because he is quite a student of cross-country running. But if he was watching the race, he'd be seeing that there are 5 Kenyans, the first 5, all Kenyans, followed by Khalid, Skah of Morocco, last year's champion, and Boutayeb just behind Skah, the other Moroccan. And I think Eamon Martin is now beginning to struggle. He's just dropped a few more places back, and I think he's found this early pace a bit competitive, and the field itself, well, immensely competitive.
Actually, among the Kenyans there, 6:02 and 600, Bitok and Dora, non-scorers, 294s there, Chilimo, 291 Tanui, Moses Tanui, and 293 Nyamu. Sad side that, but he's really had a lot of problems. So, the winner of the title, the first time in 86, he won it again 87, 88 and 89. Leaves the scene. And the question is now, will the Kenyans manage to get the individual title back for the Moroccan Skah, is just the back of that group.
Skah's tactics are going to be to follow the Kenyans. He's not going to want to hit the front at all until the very late stages of this race. And he's following these 3 Kenyans. His teammate Boutayeb moves along right behind him. And they're the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th athlete, because we still have Kirochi, the brand new unknown Kenyan, unknown even to the Kenyan journalists who are here, who is about 30 or 40 meters ahead and beginning, I think, to just settle into that pace. And I think the rest of them are beginning to think about chasing him.
Actually, I think they're gradually closing. And of course, they're still not halfway yet. Just about the halfway stage, possibly.
I think that's about almost exactly halfway. We would expect them to be running 6K. Yeah, that's right. They would be expecting them to run for about just over 30 minutes. They've got 17 minutes of running behind them, and this race is beginning to get exciting now. The 3 Kenyans leading that group. This is exactly what Khalid, Skah, the reigning champion, will want to happen. He'll want the Kenyans to pull back.
And in fact, they're doing just that. They're closing now, and it's quite significant. The lead down to about 20 meters. Gradually working themselves back into the race, but the 2 Moroccans being carried along by the Kenyans. Dora, 600, looks to be in 2nd place, just about 2nd place. He's a non-scorer, remember.
And a B of Ethiopia just went through there. We're now looking down the field, just outside the first 10, and there comes Eamon Martin, about in 13th place, beginning to find it tough, I think. We're looking further down for Richard Naruga and John Nuttall. There's John Nuttall, who's at university in America, just come back for this championship. Andy Bristow going through, Steve Tunstall, Great Britain. So the Britons are running well.
I've been checking, Brendan. We make it 6 in about the first 50, perhaps 55.
Well, obviously the team leaders are the Kenyan team, but after that, there's two Moroccans in that leading group, but we're looking down the field and there's not too many more Moroccans around, and it would be nice for the British team to come away with a team medal for this race, and I'm sure this is what their intention was when they thought about it, when they talked about it. They certainly were hoping to pack their 6 scorers inside the first 50.
Actually, Addis Abibi of Ethiopia is off the pace, dropping back. And a quick look back on the bend, and I'm afraid the danger signals are flying.
But then I noticed that Skah and Boutayeb are beginning to realize that this man is going to stay there unless they do something about closing that gap. They've got to try and close the gap. And no one's got any experience on Dory. We don't know whether he's a good finisher. We don't know what kind of finish he's got. We don't know what he's going to be like in the later stages of this race. And you can sense a bit of urgency creeping into that second group.
So the gap's still about 20 meters. this is where they've really got to start working at it, because they can't afford for the unknown Kenyan Kirochi to take a breather and then start spurting again.
I think that's what he was doing. He was looking over his shoulder and he realized they weren't making any impression, and I think he just settled down into a slower rhythm, and now you can see them being led there by Chalimo, 294 on the inside.
Actually, Chalimo broken away from them, leading the chase, and rather surprisingly, Skah of Morocco not taking advantage of that. He's certainly not going with him.
Now he's allowing Chalimo to go through on the inside. He's tracking Butayev. He's right on the inside. This is the tough part of the race. The early energy's been spent. The early rush is over, and it's now a serious, tough distance race on a course which will probably suit all of these runners. Those hills, as I said, are a little bit of an irritation, but they're not really doing any damage. But they just have to climb up them and get down the other side and forget about them.
There's no doubt the chasing pack, though, are closing down on Kirochi. They've gradually worked their way back, and running at a more even pace will possibly pay off for them.
And there's Eamon Martin climbing that hill, having a bad time there. Just ahead of Eamon Martin, I noticed Steve Monaghetti of Australia, who was the fastest marathon runner in the world last year and had set the world's fastest time for a half marathon in the Great North Run last September. John Nuttall there, Andy Bristow, Great Britain, just going through the shot, 151. 159, Steve Tunstall. Great to see Steve coming back. Richard Naruga there, 156, having a bit of a tough time. We heard a message that he'd lost his, he couldn't speak, he had a sore throat, and he was a little unhappy this morning because he's been preparing religiously for this race, and we expected him to be a bit higher up.
Firmer check on the British team. We've got 6 in 63.
Well, I think the British team will be very happy with 6 in 63, but there's a lot of running to be done yet to stay in those positions, because some of them, Eamon Martin and I think Richard Naruga, will seem to be having a little bit of a tough time.
I think the leader's having a tough time as well, Brendan.
Well, he's done his running and they've caught him gradually, so they're going to be in the chasing group, and Skah and Butayev just letting the 3 Kenyans lead them back to Ondori, who's had his flourish. And let's face it, he's got no experience of international competition, so he wouldn't have known exactly what pace he was running at, because he wouldn't have noticed there were time markers on the course. And the chasing group have gradually pulled him back. They're about 5 or 6 yards behind him. Now it's up to him to settle into that group and not be overawed by the fact that there'll be 5 or 6 athletes joining him in the lead.
Just at the back of that group, Moses Tanui, who was second last year, and Stephen Nyamu. About just over 3,000 meters to go, which is just under 2 miles.
Kirochi still leading. Skah and Butayev moving through gradually. They didn't even accelerate at that point, and Skah coming through in the green and red vest of Morocco. The team strips aren't exactly the same, but they had a little bit of a problem at that tight corner.
So in that leading group, Skah still there. It's 4 Kenyans. Batayab's there, and it looks like Khalid of Ethiopia has joined them as well. Number 1, 2, 3. Running very fluently indeed. He's only 21. He was 24 rather. He was 33rd last year, but he's going to be a lot further up this time. 294 is Chalimo, only 19. Second in last year's World Junior Championship, and making a big impact in this one.
He certainly is. He ran in Belfast earlier this year, and Eamon Martin beat him by about half a minute. And it's amazing what happens when they go back to Kenya, go into that training camp and come out for this championship, the World Cross Country Championship, which means such a lot to the Kenyans. It means such a lot to them to win the team race, and obviously they're looking forward to trying to provide the individual winner. John Ngugi won it 4 times, and then Khalid Skah won it last year. He's in 4th place there, but the Kenyans would love the double, individual winner and team winner. 1, 2, 3, Khalili of Ethiopia. So they're in that leading group. There are 5 Kenyans, 2 Moroccans, and 1 Ethiopian. And you can certainly say Africa has taken over distance running in a big way, and it's not just the Kenyans.
So Kirori's passed for the first time now, and it's Chilimo is taking it on. Khalidi in 3rd place. Skah, the champion, 5th. Moses Tanui just behind him, and so too is Naamu. Actually, at 19, Chilimo almost qualifies for this year's World Junior.
I think he's only about 3 or 4 months too old for the Junior Championships, and well, he'd be happy he's in this one. Look at him, really having a go now. Ran sensibly when his teammate Kirori took out and set the pace. Didn't do anything drastic, and just gradually brought the group back, and now making his strike for home now. A much more sensible time to strike. And look at Kirori, he's still there.
Yeah, he just seems to be taking a breather, Brendan. He's labouring a little bit, but that's his action.
Well, once they came alongside him, he didn't do anything. He just settled down, and now he'll maybe get a second breath and give himself a chance. But it doesn't matter who's been leading. Skah's been in 3rd or 4th place all the time.
And the leaders now approaching the final circuit of just over 2,000 metres. Swing out left into the country again. 5 long laps. And the race is wide open because they're all back bunched together again. There's a group there of 3, 6, 7. And Batayab's dropped out of it now. He's back in 8th place.
And of that 7, there are 5 Kenyans, 1 Ethiopian, Khalili, Khalid Skah, the reigning champion of Morocco, who's done everything right so far. He's just stayed off the lead. He stayed in 3rd or 4th place the whole way. He fancies his chances at a finish against any of these people. He came here after winning the Cinque Mulini, the 5 Mills race in Italy, which is always a good guide for the World Cross Country Championships, and he was telling everyone quite confidently that he expects to defend his title. Well, he's got 3 Kenyans, 5 Kenyans with him, 1 Ethiopian who are determined to deprive him of this title, but this last lap is going to be tough, and it's going to be fast, and there are going to be several men attempting to make a long run for home and try and take this title away from Khalid Skah, who won't do anything at all. He'll just sit and sit until the last 250, 300 metres.
And the 7 involved are 294 Chilimo. There's Khalili of Ethiopia, Kirori of Kenya, Ondoro of Kenya, a non-scorer, Skah, the champion from Morocco, Naamu of Kenya, and Tanui, Moses Tanui, the silver medalist 4 years ago, all in that group. And actually, for these athletes, it must be very uncomfortable on this last lap, because the wind is getting up now very, very... Well, it's so strong, it's blowing papers all over the course. The flags are stretching right out.
And that's Ondoro in the lead now. Chilimo on his inside. Khalili of Ethiopia just behind him, and Skah, where he's been for the whole race, in 4th place, just looking around, seeing if there's any danger coming from behind. Very conscious of his own talent, very conscious and confident about his finishing ability. And the highest place he's been, well, 3rd. We just got news of the British team. We've got some people counting the scorers further down the field. Eamon Martin, Andy Bristow, John Nuttall, Steve Tunstall in this order. Naruga, Richard Naruga, Martin McLaughlin, all inside the first 60, and if they can just keep onto those positions, I think the British team have a great chance of a medal in this game, in this championship.
But here now the battle for gold, silver and bronze for the world title. Chelimo and Kirochi. Skah going a very short way, hugging the ribbon.
Well, there's Kirochi back in the lead. He was in the lead for the first half of the race, and he's now making his run for home. That tight bend, just coming around there. Skah moving, just give himself a chance, give himself some breathing space, and give himself a sight of the finishing line.
See, Skah's just moved off the inside to cover any possible break. This has been a magnificent run by Kirochi after the way he blasted away at the start. Chelimo right alongside him. Khalid, one of the odd men out there, 1, 2, 3 from Ethiopia. And still Skah making no sort of move, but he's got a tremendous finish. 293 is 19 years old Nayamu, who came into the team at the last moment. And Kirochi's working hard again in front, making them go. Khalid following, and Skah's got a clear view now for the first time. Just takes a knock there, and remember Skah was involved in a battle in the 5 mills race in Italy with Kirochi, another Kenyan, which ended up with them having to be separated after the race. Skah could put himself about a bit.
And I think Chelimo was telling him that, stop using your elbows, let's just get this, let's have this race won by the best runner, not the one who can hit the hardest. They weren't very happy with that. They were most annoyed when they saw the film of the race that Skah ran against a BB of Ethiopia in the 5 mills race, where they actually came to blows after the finish. And the 3 Kenyans, Chelimo in 3rd place, just looking both sides. Ondoro in the lead, Kirochi, who's led for most of the way. Khalid of Ethiopia just behind him, and then Khalid Skah, the reigning champion, back in 5th place.
Well, Ondoro, not one of the scorers in the race by invitation, so he's not counting in the Kenyan side. There'll be some worried frowns on the officials' faces if he wins. Does he take the individual world title?
Well, I think he does take the individual world title. I think that's the rule. But look at Skah moving up on the outside there. Khalid of Ethiopia right next to him. And Ondoro making his bid to become world cross-country champion.
Well, in the last 500 to 600 meters now, so all gathering themselves for the attack as they turn towards the long finish stretching away in the distance. Ondoro leading, Skah in 2nd place. He's clear now, ready to attack. Chelimo, though, looking very strong. Kirochi in 4th place. And these 4 starting to try and get away. And Skah looking around, checking on the Kenyans. And he's got Kirochi battling on the inside. And Kirochi suddenly attacked the man who was in the lead from the start, and he's making them go now. And Skah now attacking hard. And they're within 200 meters of finish. And it's Skah, the world champion, trying to defend that title against the novice Kenyan Kirochi. And Nayamu coming through the last-minute replacement. Will he make it? 293. But Skah comes away to defend his world title. In 2nd place. And 3rd place, the 2 Kenyans. Tremendous finish, and he got it right.
Tremendous finish, and I mean, let's face it, the whole way the race was run, Khalid Skah, the reigning champion, let them all have their glory time, because he decided the only bit he wanted to do was the last 50 meters, and that's about all he led, David. The highest place he was until he crossed the line was 4.
So he's following the footsteps of Ngugi, who won 4 years in succession. Skah's now made it 2 in a row. Steve Monaghetti's just finished for Australia. And we're looking for Eamon Marty, the first Briton who's just coming in. And he's in 19th place. That's a good run by Eamon. Looking for the next British counter, looking a long way down the course as well. No one in sight. And Andy Bristow just coming in now. He's got about 50 metres to go to the tape. And Andy Bristow about 40th. John Nuttall in about 45th. Richard Naroka about 48th. And Tunstall in about 49th position. About 50-51 possibly.
Well, 5 Britons in the first 50 there, and I think they'll be looking for a team place there. But Khalid Skah, the reigning champion, he ran the race as he wanted to do it. He hit the front for the last 50 metres, and that was exactly his race plan.
Now for the